hiked these woods 100 times before, but tonight every shadow seemed alive. Every snapping twig was a warning. My breath plumed in the frigid air. The moonlight sliced through the skeletal pines like cold silver knives. The wind howled a ghostly wail. Wait, that wasn't the wind. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the dark. I froze. My flashlight flickered and died. Then I saw it. Towering between two pine trees, haggard, the skin clung to bone like wet parchment, stretched tight over a nightmarishly long frame. Dark, sunken eyes burned like dying embers. Antlers curled from its skull, black, cracked, and jagged. The stench of blood and rot filled my nostrils as the thing stepped forward. Needle-thin claws twitched with a terrible hunger. My pulse thundered in my ears. My legs refused to move. The beast opened its maw. Rows of broken teeth gleamed, slick with gore. Its breath was a warm, fetid cloud that wrapped around me, stealing the last of the cold air. I stumbled backward, branches clawing at my bunny hug. The monster lunged. Its movement was impossibly fast, a blur of limbs and snapping jaws. One claw caught my shoulder, tearing fabric, flesh, and reason in one searing burst of pain. I screamed, but the sound was thin against the howling void around us. Finally, my legs decided to join the commotion, and I ran. Needled branches whipped at my face. The creature crashed through the undergrowth behind me, unstoppable. The trees blurred past, but the crashing footfalls grew louder. Closer, impossibly close, until I could feel its breath on my neck. A bony hand wrapped around my ankle, and I hit the ground hard, my face scraping against the frozen earth. I turned, eyes wide as it loomed over me, drooling strands of viscous saliva onto my chest. Its voice slithered into my ears, not words, but a sound, prehistoric and starved.
You're listening to Canada's Creatures, where myths are real and nightmares walk the earth. I am your host, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and tonight we are heading deep into the cold, dark woods to meet something ancient, something hungry. This is the legend of the Wendigo. Part 1. The Legend. The Wendigo. Even the name sends a chill down the spine. The lore of the Wendigo, Wendigo, Witikau, or Wetiko, finds its roots in the spiritual traditions of Algonquian-speaking First Nations people in North America. This includes the Cree and Ojibwe peoples. Different tribes have their own specific details attached to their Wendigo legends, but the core details remain consistent. The Wendigo is a creature of insatiable hunger, tall, gaunt, and skeletal, with ashen skin and glowing eyes sunk into a monstrous face. Long, sharp claws scrape along the ground with rows of jagged teeth protruding from a drooling maw and a heart made of cold, thick ice. The smell of rotting flesh exudes from them at all times. The Wendigo may have missing or chewed off lips. Some descriptions include antlers or deer-like features. It stalks the forests of the northern United States and Canada, especially during the coldest winters. The Wendigo, with its heightened senses, cannot be destroyed easily. Fire would be your best bet to keep the creature at bay. Though relentless in their pursuit of flesh, one legend states that the ermine, a small weasel-like creature, is awarded its beautiful white winter coat for leaping down the throat of a Wendigo and biting its icy heart. But the Wendigo was not always a monster. Once, it was human. The legend of the Wendigo is associated with winter, famine, and the dangers of isolation and despair. It is a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting our desires get the best of us and the importance of community and cooperation. The stories of the Wendigo, when told around a fire in the middle of winter, when food is scarce and emotions become skewed, reflects a deep understanding of the psychological impact of starvation and the potential for humans to be corrupted by extreme circumstances. That being said, the legend goes, if someone is overcome by such greed, if they resort to cannibalism during famine or an unforgivingly cold winter, that someone would be cursed, their soul twisted, their body transformed. They would become the Wendigo, a spirit of endless hunger. Part 2. A true account or a true crime? Wendigo psychosis has been well documented throughout the last few centuries. The Jesuit relations and allied documents outlining the travels and explorations of Jesuit missionaries in New France, which the core is modern-day Quebec, reported in 1661,
What caused us great concern was the news that met us upon entering the lake, namely that the men deputed by our coordinator for the purpose of summoning the nations to the North Sea and assigning them a rendezvous where they were to await our coming, had met their death the previous winter in a very strange manner. Those poor men. They were seized with an ailment unknown to us, but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They were afflicted with neither lunacy, hypochondria, nor frenzy, but have a combination of all these species of disease, which affects their imaginations and causes them a more than canine hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce upon women, children, and even men like veritable werewolves. They devour the victim voraciously without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking fresh prey. And the more greedily, the more they eat. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among those simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness.
The winter of 1878 to 1879 was a time of great starvation and misery for the Cree people. A trapper by the name of Swift Runner walked out of the northern Alberta woods. He was starving, gaunt and alone. His story sent shockwaves through the small settlement of Fort Saskatchewan and would go down in history. Swift claimed his family had died over the winter, but when the police searched his campsite, they made a grisly discovery. Bones. Human bones. Cracked open and sucked of their marrow. Swift Runner confessed. He claimed to have been possessed by the Wendigo, and over the course of the winter, he had murdered his wife and 5 children, cooking and eating their flesh to survive. Swift was arrested, brought to trial, and in December of 1879 was hung at Fort Saskatchewan. So we know, in the late 1800s to the turn of the century, Wendigo psychosis was well documented by missionaries and doctors. It was a rare condition in which someone believes they are turning into the creature of legend. The symptoms included insomnia, hallucinations, and a craving for human flesh. Was it mental illness or a supernatural curse? Maybe the act of killing and consuming one's family could drive a person insane. Even now, elders in some indigenous communities give warning. Do not say the Wendigo's name too loudly. Do not stray too far into the trees, and never ever travel alone during the winter. Part 3. The Modern-Day Cannibal. The Wendigo is not just a myth from a time in our past before furnaces. Hikers have vanished in the Great Lakes region, their last cell phone signals pinging from deep inside national forests, and then never heard from again. Strange sightings of tall, withered creatures with glowing eyes still pop up on Reddit and YouTube videos. Some say the modern Wendigo is a metaphor for greed, for colonialism, for the hunger of capitalism that can never be satisfied. But others believe it walks among us, especially when the snow falls and the wind howls, when the forest grows quiet, too quiet. The legend of the Wendigo has been adapted into various forms of media, including stories, movies, podcasts, and video games. One game is Uncharted: Drake's Fortune from 2007. It goes from a seemingly quiet treasure hunt for the riches of El Dorado to a brutal run for your life from the ancient creatures. In the game Until Dawn from 2015, now a major motion picture, it is revealed that Blackwood Mountain has been riddled with Wendigos ever since the mine caved in 1952, trapping several workers who had no other choice but to resort to cannibalism. So the next time you're in the woods and you hear something moving through the trees, something fast and thin and not quite human, do not look back. As Rick Vancey writes in his best-selling novel, The Curse of the Wendigo, the greatest danger in the wilderness is not from the beasts that roam, but from the darkness that lurks within ourselves. I am Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and this has been Canada's Creatures, the hunger of the Wendigo. Subscribe to Canada's Crawlspace for more true crime, true horror, folklore, and more. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters used to be just like us.